Hello, good to be with you today. Welcome to my brand new travel channel where I explore the Philippines and I bring all of it to you. A little bit about me. My name is Rich, and I have made numerous trips all over the place in the Philippines in the last 10 years or so, and a lot more quite recently in the last couple of years. Traveling is one of my greatest passions, and I enjoy doing it immensely. If you have a sense of adventure, the Philippines is a great place for all kinds of adventures. I've done trips that are expensive. I've done trips that don't really cost all that much money. It's just all around. If you are looking for it, you can probably find it here in the Philippines. But I want to speak mainly to the part of the audience that may have never been here before or might not have even traveled before. I can say that it can be intimidating to travel, especially if you've never really gotten out and traveled internationally before and it's your first time traveling. It can definitely be a little bit overwhelming. I've been doing it for years, and even I feel a bit apprehensive when I go somewhere new and explore for the first time. So that's kind of what inspired this blog. Is I would like to I wanted to make a channel that will kind of show you that it's really not that difficult. It's quite fun. It's affordable. Even getting around with things like buses and ferries and taxis and even some of the local domestic flights, it's pretty simple. I've been doing it quite a bit, and I'm even now I'm surprised at just how easy it actually is. And again, it's cheap, and many people will help you along the way if you get confused. If you're on a budget like I am, you can actually really do a lot with a small amount of money. I've been finding for under $50, you can kind of just about get anywhere you want to go. It may take you a while. It may take you several hours on a bus or a ferry to go to a destination, but most of the places that you'll be interested in going, you can get there pretty easily, and definitely under $50 for a one-way trip. Usually it's much less than that. Usually it's more like $20 to $30. And that includes things like taxis and ferries and all kinds of things. Also, accommodations like hotels and resorts. You can find all different levels. You can find the really expensive five-star hotels that can cost upwards around $300-400 a night. But you can also find very cheap accommodations. You can find hostels for as low as like $5 a night. I found that $50 a night is a pretty good sweet spot for affordability plus getting some of the basic necessities that and things that add comfort, like air conditioning, nice beds, nice places to put your stuff, desks and whatever. Bathrooms are clean, and then the overall amenities around can be pretty nice, and also location. So if you've never traveled to the Philippines or have never really traveled internationally, there's a few things that I want to cover in this video here. The first is international travel. They're traveling from wherever you are. I live in the United States in the city of Portland. Traveling internationally, you'd be pleasantly surprised at just how stress-free it kind of is. Obviously, if it's your first time, you're not going to be quite sure what to expect. But you'll find that the flights are on time. Typically, international flights are usually always on time, barring, extraneous situations like if there's a typhoon or something and they're waiting for weather patterns to kind of subside, you might have to wait a little while. But all in all, I've rarely had any difficulty, and I've made many, many trips, and I haven't really had any situation that was like a bad situation in flying. I quite enjoy it. But anyway, I want to get into some of the things that, some of the very general, high level things you want to consider before you make a trip to the Philippines. And number one is you want to pack light. It is tempting, and I did this when I first started traveling, but it's tempting to like just pack a whole bunch of what if kind of things. Like, what if I need this? What if I need that? Maybe I should take, this thing just in case. Maybe I should take some extra, towels or something, and just in case I need some. You want to kind of avoid that mentality and pack super light. You really actually don't need that much at all. I pack like five shirts, five pairs of shirts, or five shirts and five pairs of shorts. A few toiletry items, like toothpaste and shampoos and all that stuff. You can buy that stuff here in the Philippines. You actually don't need to take it with you. I bring, my electronics are probably the bulk of what I carry, like a laptop, the chargers. I bring a drone. If you've got a GoPro or if you've got any other, power bank, and then all of the charging accessories that go with that. That's probably takes up more space than anything. But you want to pack as lightly as possible. And the reason why you do that is because you don't want to stress over all this stuff. You know, you don't know where you're putting it in your bags, and it can get lost, and you can forget like where did I put this or that, and you can lose things, and just the less stuff that you have, the better. And again, you can find most items that you really need, the necessities. You can find those there in the Philippines without too much trouble. So yeah, pack light, just so you have less to worry about, because you ideally you want less stress. You want less things to concern yourself with over. You want to be relaxed and not have to worry about too much. And the more you bring with you, the more you worry. The next one is your passport. Of course, you're going to need a passport to travel internationally. You want at least 6 months left on your expiration date. And if you find you're starting to get close to that window, then you might want to consider renewing your passport. It can take a little while to do that, so the sooner you get on that, the better. 6 months is just a precaution, just in case something happens and you end up needing to stay abroad for a little bit longer. Immigrations may have an issue if they look at your passport and there's less than 6 months. I doubt that they would send you back, but you just don't want to get into that situation, and so you want to make sure that your passport has plenty of time on it. One of the requirements in the Philippines is they want you to fill out a travel declaration online. You go to etravel.gov.ph. They want you need to do that 72 hours or less prior to your flight. So you can do it the day before, the moment before, 3 days before. You can also do it right there just before you go through immigration. So if you forget about it completely, they do have terminals where you can fill that out and take care of it there. But I would recommend just getting it done ahead of time, just so that you have less to stress about. And you do that online, again, on etravel.gov.ph. And once that's complete, they'll send you an email. What you get is a QR code, and you'll want to take a screenshot of that, uh, or print it out, hard copy, but a screenshot's just fine. Because once you get to immigrations in the Philippines, they are going to scan that QR code. And if you don't have the right QR code, or there's something wrong with it, then you're going to have to deal with a few more steps when you're there. And this travel declaration is basically the same thing that you would typically fill out when you're on the airplane. If you haven't traveled internationally before, a lot of times they would give you a piece of paper, which is your customs declaration slip. If you were fortunate enough to have a pen on the plane, you can fill that out. But this gets that out of the way, so you don't have to worry about that on the plane. It's the same thing. You just handle it more of a digital way, and it's a lot nicer to have that completed. Along with the e-travel declaration, you'll need to book an onward or round trip ticket out of the Philippines. That's a requirement with Philippine immigration. You'll need to have this ticket booked before your flight to the Philippines. So before you get on your first flight, you will need to have that round trip ticket or onward ticket already booked. And at the gate where you get onto your first flight, the ticket agent will probably want to see that, or want to see some kind of confirmation before they even give you a boarding pass. They definitely will if you have like a connecting flight, your international flight, whether it's EVA Air, China Air, Korean Air. When you go to check in for your international flight at the airport, they're going to probably want to see that if you haven't verified it already. They have always checked that with me. There's never been a situation where I've made my trip and they have not checked for an onward ticket, but it's usually done at the airport gate. And so you need to have that booked and ready before you start flying. Surprisingly, they do not ask for this at Customs and Immigration in the Philippines. So it's something that you need to have done before you leave for the airport. Philippine Executive Order 408. If you haven't heard about it, what this does is it grants people a visa-free access for stays of up to 30 days. When you get there in the Philippines and you go through Customs and Immigration, if you're in one of the countries that falls under Executive Order 408, which the United States does, they stamp your passport with a 30-day entry visa. Your return trip ticket will need to be scheduled within that 30 days, within that 30-day visa-free period. If you want to stay longer than 30 days, you will need to reschedule that ticket or cancel it or otherwise. So keep that in mind when you're budgeting your trip. So that's pretty much it in terms of documentation required for your initial travel. Some other things I like to consider is my route, my flight itinerary, getting from the US to the Philippines. And there's a few things that I typically like to take into consideration after booking mini trips and figuring out the pain points and figuring out how to avoid things that are just make travel more stressful. So I live in Portland on the West Coast, and of course I like to find flights that are cheap. And for me, for where I'm at in Portland, I like to find a flight that's less than about 26 hours total, and a flight that arrives in Cebu City, and ideally in the morning time. And so those are my kind of like my criteria for selecting a flight. I find it better to get there during the daytime hours. So typically like in the morning around 10 or 11, or even maybe in the afternoon around 1 or 2, just so that I can be checked in. I've got plenty of time to get checked in, settled, and still have a few hours left in the day, maybe to go explore a little bit or just get some rest. It also helps me keep on track with the current time zone. And I find that I can handle jet lag a lot easier if I get there in the middle of the day and kind of try and get to bed at a normal time during the night. It just helps me kind of get adjusted faster. Some flights will get you there late at night if you leave in the morning in from the West Coast or from where I'm at in Portland. The flight usually doesn't get there until like 10 or 11 at night. It's just really late to kind of get all that you need to get done when you arrive. You'll find, or I found, that I don't quite like get finally settled in until like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's just kind of late to get stuff taken care of when you get there. Another thing that I am very wary of are the layover airports. So from Portland, I can have a layover in Los Angeles or San Francisco, but also there's Seattle or Vancouver. And I really prefer the Seattle or Vancouver layovers. They're smaller airports than compared to LA or San Francisco. Less crowded. There's less transit time between the arrival gate and the international terminal. And so that's basically what you'll do is you're going to, if you have a connecting flight inside the U.S. like I do, there's going to be some time where you have to get from the domestic side of the airport to the international side of the airport. In Los Angeles, that transition can take anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes of walking. Depending on where your arrival gate is, you could be walking all the way across the airport. You're walking through terminals and you're walking outside of security. You got to go back in through security again until you finally get to the international terminal and finally get to the gate where your international flight is going to depart. And that is a hassle. That can be a real pain. I do whatever I can to avoid it. Yeah, and then there's walking through security again. In Seattle, I find that I don't have to walk through security again. It all just depends on where your arrival gate is compared to the international terminal. If I can avoid going through security again, I definitely take that option. And I find that Seattle is typically where I transit, and I can avoid a lot of these pain points just by doing that. And also, when coming back from the Philippines, you want to take the same kind of things into consideration. I avoid LA for the same reasons, but also Customs and Border Patrol or control can be really packed in Los Angeles coming back because you don't just have flights from the Philippines, you have flights from all over the world coming in through LA, especially during rush hour. You can have upwards around 2 or 3,000 people all coming in through immigrations, and you can be in line for could be an hour or more, or a couple hours even, depending on how bad the situation is. And it just puts your connecting flight. If you're moving on from LA, it can put that connecting flight in a bit of jeopardy because there's a lot you have to do. When you get back from the Philippines, you're going to go through customs and border immigrations. You have to pick up your bag from baggage claim. You got to make your way through the line, and then you have to go usually drop off your bag at whatever airline you're connecting with, and then you have to go find your gate. It can just take a while. LA is certainly very congested, and you can take up a lot more time than you think. So for me, arriving in Seattle or Vancouver is much simpler and much quicker, and it's more painless. And I just prefer to do it that. So whenever I make my booking, I'm very conscious of where the layovers are. Internationally, the cheaper flights are going to have another connection in it might be Taiwan, it might be Hong Kong, it could be Incheon, South Korea. Those are typically where I've had layovers, and those airports they're all fine. I've never really had a big problem. My go-to connection is typically Taiwan. I've always been able to, enjoy and have a good connection there. When arriving in the Philippines, there's two ways you can get in. Well, there's more than two ways, but the two main ways are either Manila Airport, Ninoy Aquino International Airport, or NAIA. I like to avoid Manila as much as possible for pretty much the same reasons that I avoid Los Angeles. And it's because customs and immigrations there can also get overwhelmed and take a long time. But it's been a long time since I've transited through there. But the last time, NAIA had four terminals that are not connected to each other. And getting from one to the other requires a taxi, which exposes you to airport traffic outside the airport. So you have to, so if you come in through Terminal 1 and you have to get to Terminal 4 to get to your connecting flight from Manila, you have to most likely take a taxi because they're too far apart to walk. So you really need a taxi. And so you're exposing yourself to traffic, and it can take a lot more time. It can take more time than you think. The other option is Mactan Cebu City Airport. For me, this is a much better place for arrival. There's less people, less traffic, faster immigration processing times. I generally like to come in through there. It's much easier. And then after I'm done getting through immigrations, yeah, there's still traffic, but the traffic isn't as bad as it is in Manila. And so you can usually get, from the airport to your hotel or wherever you're going a lot quicker. Anyway, so that's where I usually come in is Cebu International, or it's the Mactan Cebu International Airport. Smaller airport, much more enjoyable, and just overall better airport than Manila. So the next consideration is money. And there's actually quite a bit to talk about when it comes to money in the Philippines. The Philippines uses the Philippine peso. When you arrive in the Philippines, you're going to want to have some peso with you. $100, $60, $50 is sufficient, but you'll need to have that already. And this is to basically handle your airport transfer. You're going to have to pay for a taxi. The taxi could cost around 500 pesos. You'll need to get that. You might have something else you need to pick up on your way to the airport. And you're just going to want to have, a little bit of money with you in Philippine peso already, because of course they don't accept American dollars there. You're not going to be able to pay for anything with American dollars. So you have some options. In the international airport, you can usually find currency exchange locations or offices, and you can exchange your US dollars or use a debit card. If you're willing to pay the upwards around 10% for an exchange rate, could be higher, could be less. In the Cebu Mactan International Airport, they do have a currency exchange counter you can use, which charges roughly the same. But it's necessary to get you through your first few transactions after you arrive. So have some Philippine peso on you when you arrive. So basically, you're going to want to have that already in your wallet before you leave the airport. And then after this, after you get to your hotel and checked in, at some point you're going to want to find a local bank branch like a BDO or a PNB, and you'll want to use their ATM. So you want to use your debit card and withdraw from the ATM. I suggest main bank branches because one, it's more likely that the ATM they have there will be in service and stocked with a supply of money. You won't have to worry about an ATM being out of service or something wrong with it. They usually maintain their ATMs a lot better. And it's less likely that that particular ATM will trigger any kind of fraud protection alert. If you're using an ATM like a third party ATM that you find at convenience stores or the malls, those aren't run typically by BDO or PNB. They're run by a third party, so your bank might see that ATM withdrawal and wonder what the heck it is, and then you risk a fraud alert or a block on your card, which means you won't be able to use your card until you contact your bank and get it all sorted out, verify transactions, which it's a hassle that you don't want. Depending on your situation, you might have to make a phone call. You might be able to get on the internet and log onto your bank and handle it, but you just don't want to have to deal with that. So I like to use the main bank branch ATMs. So using money in the Philippines, so this assumes that you've already withdrawn a whole bunch of cash and you now have cash to spend in your wallet. And cash is king in the Philippines. And the more physical cash you have on hand, the better. You can use it for pretty much everything in every situation, as you would expect to normally use money. Also, a lot of businesses and services accept only cash. They don't have the infrastructure set up to take credit card payments, and then these are usually the smaller restaurants. They can be individuals like taxi drivers, smaller convenience stores and such. There's actually quite a bit of transactions that you'll make in the Philippines that only support cash and they don't take a card. So you're going to want to have ample cash to cover your transaction. However, with using cash, there's a bit of a pain point that comes with managing change or smaller denominations. They have smaller bills and they also have coins in like the 1 and 5 and 10 peso denominations. The basic denomination for bills is the 1,000 peso bill, which is a little less than about $20. Even though they're the most common, you kind of want to be careful with how you use those and save them for purchases that are above 500 pesos or so. For anything less, you should use the lower denom. So they have a 500, 200, a 100, a 50 denom. And the reason for this is because a lot of businesses or individuals might not have adequate change on hand. A good example of this is your taxi driver. If you're paying cash with it for a taxi, chances are they're only going to have maybe a few hundred pesos of change on hand. And if your taxi ride costs 150 pesos and you hand them a 1,000 peso note and they can't change it, then you've got some extra steps to take. They have to take you to, a gas station or a 7-Eleven or some kind of business that will change you. And it's just a hassle that you don't want to have to go through. So it's good to have plenty of smaller denominations on hand. If you find you're getting low on smaller denominations, you can, make sure that, you somehow break those larger bills up so that you can handle that situation. So I typically have about 20 to 30,000 pesos on hand, and this comes to about 400 to $600. And I usually carry about 5,000 or so in my wallet, which is around $100 of various denominations, and then I leave the rest back in my room. If you have a safe in your room, it's preferable to use that safe if you have it. And this gives me enough to cover most emergency situations. And once I get down to about 10,000 or so pesos or less, then I'll make a trip back to the ATM and withdraw some more cash. Try to get myself back up to about 20,000 pesos. And then the next is your bank cards. So I like to have about 2 or 3 bank cards. I use a credit card, perhaps even a backup credit card, and then 2 checking accounts, each with a debit card. And so I'll use one set that I primarily use, and the other stays as a backup back in my room or back in my bag with my things. And you want that just in case your wallet gets stolen or you lose your wallet, or if your cards both get blocked or something or flagged and it's going to take you some time to get that sorted out. You can use your backup set of credit and debit cards, and these just kind of cover you in case something happens, which it's bound to happen eventually. You're bound to going to want to use or going to want to have some backup cards on hand. And if it's required by your bank, make sure you submit a travel notification for all your cards that you're going to be using. I happen to use USAA Bank, and they don't require it, but other banks may. And if your bank does have to require travel notifications, you're going to want to make sure you do that. Because if they do require it and you don't do it and you make a purchase overseas, your card will be most likely blocked. Fraud protection will kick in. A fraud alert will go off at your bank, and they'll most likely block your card until you can get in touch with them, which may take some time. And keep in mind, it might be difficult for you to contact your bank over there. It depends on what kind of phone plan you have, your access to internet. You may not easily be able to get in contact with your bank. You'll just want to make sure you find out if you need to do a travel notification, and if you do, make sure you do them. Now, if you're in a real emergency, let's say you didn't have backup cards and you've lost your primary bank cards, your credit card and your debit card, or you lost your wallet and you don't have very much cash left and you're out of options and you kind of need cash now. You can use Western Union as an emergency fallback, and I've actually done this once before. I was in Boracay one time and I was using their ATMs, which my bank did not like. Before I knew it, both of my debit cards were blocked, and I wasn't able to get those blocks lifted very quickly, and I needed to get money very soon. So you can use Western Union. You can actually send money to yourself with Western Union if you can get online or use a phone app and have your bank connected to it, or if you have another credit card that you have connected to your Western Union app, you can use the online app to send a certain amount of money to yourself. And then all you have to do is go to one of the many Western Union branches that are around. There's a whole bunch of them. You can probably, from wherever you are in the Philippines, you can probably walk to the nearest Western Union. And you just have to have your MTCN number and your passport. It may take a few moments for them to get it all processed. But once you do, you can get cash and go use that cash to get out of whatever predicament that you're in. So that's one option. My typical system is for spending money. Make all your bookings online if you can, using your card online. But when I'm out and about making transactions, I'll first use my credit card wherever possible. Most of the places that you'll go probably won't be able to use your credit card. And then I use cash for all their situations. And then my debit card, I use just for ATM withdrawals only. I don't use my ATM debit card to make any purchases unless I have to. All in all, for the most part, when I'm out and about, I just use cash. So yeah, so credit card, your debit cards, cash, and then Western Union. If all else fails and you have nothing else, you can use Western Union. The Philippines has an app that you can download onto your phone called Grab, Grab. And Grab is a lot like Uber and Uber Eats combined. And it is a great way to find taxis. You're going to pay more for your taxi. It's a great way to use your credit card for a taxi. Most of the times, if you call a taxi, you're going to have to use cash, but you can save on keeping some of your change and keep some of your on hand cash by using Grab, which will charge your credit card. You can also order takeout, which I've done quite a bit. And Grab is just, it's a great app. It's a must have if you're traveling in the Philippines, no doubt. Be sure to download Grab, get your card set up on it. Definitely use it whenever you can. So you'll definitely want to have this set up on your phone. If not before you get to the Philippines, definitely as soon as possible when you do get here. And so, speaking of phones and phone plans, I personally would suggest an international roaming plan with your carrier if they have one. So, I use Verizon and I have their Ultimate International plan. This allows me to use my phone without any extra charge when I'm in the Philippines or when I'm roaming. I can receive texts, I can receive phone calls. I have access to the mobile data here in the Philippines using the smart network, and I can pretty much just use my phone for whatever I want to, the same as I do back in the States. The mobile data isn't as good here as it is back in the US, but I can still use it and get online and do things when I'm out in the city. If you don't have a plan like that, or you don't want to pay for something like that, then you'll want to have access to a phone while you're there in the Philippines. So you may want to buy a phone, buy a SIM card, figure out a solution for that, buy a burner phone. You're going to want a phone when you're here. There's a lot that you'll need to use it for. Again, for example, Grab is enough of a reason itself to buy a phone, and you're going to probably need, like for example, if you want to order a Grab, you're going to want to have access to mobile data. You may be in a situation where you don't have Wi-Fi. You may be out in the street and you want to quickly order a Grab taxi, and you're just going to want to have a mobile data connection. It's going to make your life a lot easier. So having a good phone with a good international plan is definitely worth considering if you want to spend a little extra money to do that. The next thing that I've kind of discovered in the Philippines as I've traveled here a lot is just different considerations when it comes to time. Time goes by differently in the Philippines, and you'll hear the phrase Filipino time occasionally. And it generally means that, in general, things like specific appointment times, all of these, being on time, for example, things like that aren't taken all that seriously. If you're someone that's a bit of a stickler for being on time, you know, meeting someone on time, expecting someone to be on time, then you're probably going to get a bit frustrated and annoyed here because they just kind of don't have that sort of mentality. So, the rule of thumb for me is to give myself plenty of time. Give yourself plenty of time. Don't rush. Don't leave last minute. Give yourself enough time in whatever it is that you do to be completely relaxed at every moment. Start kind of operating and moving with the mindset of like island time. Every part of the Philippines is an island. The whole country of the Philippines is a group of about 7,000 islands. So wherever you are at every moment, you're on island time, which means you are exactly where you're supposed to be all the time, which means you should chill, relax, enjoy it. Don't rush. There's nothing wrong with hanging out an extra 30 minutes somewhere if it means you can have a chill and relaxed mindset and not have to worry if you're going to miss a connection, you're going to miss an appointment. Very much worth it to give yourself plenty of time, get there early, and just enjoy it. Buy a coffee, buy something at a shop, hang out, enjoy your surroundings, enjoy the fact that you're on an island. Also, when you're rushed and you're pressed for time, you have more of a tendency to forget or lose things. This is a huge thing for me. The moment I get rushed, I like suddenly just lose my mind and oh, I left my wallet somewhere. Oh, I left my phone there. I forgot my change. Or I've even left my entire backpack behind and I had to go back and get it. Just because getting this rushed mentality and you got to get to the next thing and you get confused and you're wondering how to deal with things and you don't want to get into that situation because the last thing you want is to lose your passport, lose your phone. Those are bad situations. Lose your wallet. Those are very bad situations and they're difficult to deal with. They're difficult to remedy. So I suggest go slow, move slow, take your time. And once you kind of get into that mentality, move slow, walk comfortably, you'll actually find that you just start kind of naturally fitting in more with other people around you who are on Filipino time. Plus, you just get to take in more around you. You know, you're there to explore. So move slow and look around, see what's around you, and take note of things. Those are all things that are possible when you relax and move slower. And it's a lot more enjoyable. Last thing I want to bring up is remember that you are a guest here, and the Philippines is not your country. They're very welcoming, they're very hospitable people, they're ready to help you. But remember that this is not the United States, or this is not the country that you're coming from. You've been given a free tourist visa because of the good graces of the Filipino people. But just keep in mind that each and every one of them is your host, just like you would respect a host. And if you went to someone's house, the Filipino people should be treated with respect and dignity and everything like that. Everything that you would just normally give to a person. And most of them work very hard, and they do a lot to provide for their families. They do a lot more and work a lot harder than you would expect. Smiles go a long way to showing them that you appreciate them. And if you appreciate them, they will appreciate you. Filipinos may have their shortcomings, as a people, but by and large, they are amazing and very caring people who will not hesitate to help you if they can. So be on your best behavior, go with the flow. They do things differently here in ways that might not meet your standards or expectations, but just go with the flow. Keep things peaceful, non-confrontational as much as you can. Yeah, things may not go your way or the way that you expect them to go, but just go with it. If you end up spending a few more bucks that you didn't expect to spend, simply because you're a foreigner or whatever the case may be, that's okay. Just let it go and keep enjoying yourself. Go slow, enjoy yourself, go with the flow. Anyhow, that's all. I am about to go on my next trip here soon, and we'll have more videos for everyone to see. So stay tuned for more of the amazing world I'm about to show you from the Philippines. Please, if you are not subscribed, it will help me out a lot. Give me a thumbs up, put a comment in the comment section. If there's something that you're particularly interested in or have wanted to see that you haven't been able to see in the Philippines, let me know about it. And I can possibly add that to my next trip. I haven't really planned things out very far in advance, but I'm definitely open to anyone that has any ideas or suggestions or any kind of ideas that you might have that you want me to think about. And any support is definitely appreciated. This is a new channel. I'd like to have it grow and be engaged with a lot of people that are interested in the Philippines. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.